Hi, everyone. Welcome. So, today we are going to be talking all about the new parole program for citizens of Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela. This is specifically for people from this country. You can get a parole document that allows you to travel into the US and apply for work authorization. So that's all we're going to be talking about. We're going to go through what the program is, who qualifies for it, what steps you need to take, and the things you need to watch out for as you're going through this process. And of course, we're going to talk about the immigration of it all, how many people can actually get it. So that's all we're going to be talking about today. I am Lillian Chukura. I am an immigration lawyer at Lily Legal. We help our clients get green cards and citizenship for themselves and their families using the U.S. immigration law system. If immigration immigrating to the US, filing for family, friends is something you're interested in, then this is the channel for you. Go ahead and subscribe, like this video, share this video. And if you want to know if you specifically or a family member qualifies for green card or citizenship and you want to have a strategy session with me, go ahead and click the links in the description to this video or call my office at 508-443-1788. All right, enough of that. Let's jump right in. As always, as always, before I start these videos, you are going to hear a baby in the background. You're just going to. So if you hear her go off, just know it's you have been warned. There's a baby in the background. She's going to make some noise, but we are going to get you all this information. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments. If you're watching this on the replay and you have questions, put them in the comments. I do go back and respond to all those questions. Now, let's get started. The first thing you need to know is that you must be a citizen of Cuba, Haiti, Venezuela, or Nicaragua to qualify. That just bottom line, you must be from from those four countries. Now, here's the wrinkle. If you are a dual citizen, meaning you are a citizen of, let's say, Venezuela and Spain, you do not qualify. Okay. If you have permanent residency in another country other than those four countries, you would not qualify unless, right? Unless you are the child of someone that qualifies and you are under 18. Then the fact that you're a dual citizen and the fact that you have permanent residency in another country will not be a problem. Or if you are a spouse of someone that qualifies. So again, if you have a spouse that's in the US, that's not going to cut it. So your spouse must be applying for this program and must qualify for this program in order for you as a dual citizen or someone that is a citizen of these four countries and a permanent resident of another country to qualify. Okay, so that's how these will go. So it's either you're a citizen of these four countries or if you're a dual citizen, you are married to someone that qualifies under this program and is applying under this program in order for you to still qualify. Okay. So that's the first of who can qualify. So the next thing is you need a supporter. That's where the Form I-134A comes in. Okay. So you are applying for parole into the US. The first step of that with this process is having a supporter. Your supporter must, must make enough income or have enough assets to support you and their household. So if your supporter is married and has two children, with you, their household size is now 5. So they need to meet the federal poverty guidelines for a household of 5, not a household of 4. Okay, so if it's a single person filing to support one person, that's a household of 2. So keep that in mind as you are going through this process. And the great thing about this program is that you can have more than one supporter. Okay, so if you're looking for a supporter and you have a family friend, someone that wants to be your supporter, and their income is just not enough, you can have more than one supporter. Hi, Jones. Welcome. Ask me questions. So you can have more than one supporter. Keep that in mind as you're going through this process. And the best part is that your supporter does not have to be related to you. Okay, your supporter does not have to be your friend, your family member, your cousin, none of that. None of that. Your supporter just has to be someone that's willing to support you and has the income or assets to support you. That's real. That's all a supporter needs to be. Now, your supporter also needs to be in valid status in the US. So if your supporter is here and is undocumented, unfortunately, they cannot file for you. If your supporter is here and is applying for asylum and their asylum has not been granted yet, they cannot be your supporter. If the person is here and apply for TPS, but the TPS has not been approved yet, they cannot be your supporter. So your supporter has to be in valid status, has to be a U.S. citizen, permanent resident, or someone in valid status. TPS is a valid status. Asylum is a valid status. If your DED is still active, it is a valid status for this purpose. So keep that in mind. The only income that counts is income that was earned while the person is in valid status and able to legally work in the US. Okay, those are the income that can be used for this purpose. Now, your supporter also has to live in the US. I know. Your supporter has to live in the US. So even if your supporter is a US citizen, they must still live in the US in order to be your supporter. And supporter and sponsor used interchangeably. Okay. So some people will say sponsor. The forms, USCIS calls it supporters. So I'm going to use that language with you because I don't want you to reach out to USCIS. So I have to follow up on things and say sponsor when the term is actually supporter. So let's get used to using the language that USCIS uses, which is supporter. Okay, so you have your supporter. They are U.S. citizen, permanent resident, or in a valid status. They have enough income to support you and their household. They live in the U.S., right? Remember, they don't have to be related to you. And the supporter can be an organization. The supporter can be an organization. So people, if there is a nonprofit or anything like that, and you want to donate to the nonprofit and the nonprofit then serves as the supporter, that is a possibility. Okay, so definitely reach out to nonprofits that you want to donate to if they are doing this, if they are working to support people under this program. Okay. Now, let's talk about the person that is coming here. You, the beneficiary, the person that is applying for the parole, must have a passport. Okay, you must have a passport because in order for you to get this, you must fly into the US. You cannot enter through a land border. So you cannot enter through Mexico, even though you have the parole. You must fly into the US. That is a requirement that is non-negotiable. Okay. That is not negotiable. You must fly into the US. So that means you must have a passport. All right. And like I said before, you must be from those 4 countries, and you must you must do your part of the application online. So this whole process, there is no paper. This is all electronic. So that is where things really get interesting for some people, because if you don't have access to stable internet, if you don't have access to be able to do these things, or you're not knowledgeable, it can get difficult. So we help our clients go through this process of applying for the I-134A online, and applying for the beneficiary online as well. So we help you figure this out, because it is, like I said, it is a process. And once you go through that, once you know that you have a supporter, you meet the beneficiary requirements, right? The next thing is, let's talk about how do you actually start the process. The first step of the process is that your supporter has to create a USCIS online account and apply for the I-134A, upload their documents showing their income, showing that they have valid status in the US. If there are more than one supporter for one beneficiary, so let's say John is the beneficiary and John has 2 people that want to be his supporters, only one of them can file an I-134A. The other one has to do a statement, an affidavit, basically saying that they want to be a co-supporter and that they meet the requirements. They still have to upload their documents showing their income and assets, showing their household size, showing that they have valid status in the US to qualify as a supporter. Okay, so if you have more than one supporter, each supporter is not filing their own I-134A. One supporter is filing an I-134A, and the other one is uploading their documents under that application. So your supporters have to talk to each other. Your supporters have to communicate. Or what I suggest, just have a lawyer be the intermediary that gets those documents from your supporters and completes the application process for you. So once you do that, once you file that form, you are then waiting for USCIS to make a decision if your supporters qualify to support you. Okay. If they find that your supporters qualify, they will approve that step, and then you can go on to the next step. If they say that your supporters do not qualify to be your supporter, so basically maybe their income is not enough, well, the supporters can refile. There's no appeal process with this. You just have to refile. And you can refile with additional supporters. You can refile with more documentation if you didn't include enough documentation to start with. So the option, if you are denied on the I-134A, is to refile. That's what USCIS says. They are not appealing anything. If you don't get it the first time, you can refile. And at least when you refile, you know exactly why they denied you, so you can fix it. The next thing after that, once it's approved, the beneficiary now has to create an online account. They have to upload their picture using a specific app for border protection, because they really want you to use their app to take that picture. So it's really important that all of that is done correctly. Once CBP, okay, the border protection, once they decide that you qualify, once they approve you to travel, you have 90 days to travel to the US. So if you are going through this process, if you are going to be applying for this, just know you have 90 days once you are approved to travel to the US. You can apply for an extension, but it gives you an additional 30 days to travel. And you have to apply for the extension 30 days before your date, before your 90 days is up. So really pay attention to that. If you know you're going to be applying for this, please make the necessary things ready for you to apply for, to get your plane ticket and leave your country as soon as it is approved, so that there's no delays. And, you know, if the southern states decide to sue on this, and there's any hold, that you are getting in here with your approved parole as soon as possible. Okay, so really, really important that you pay attention to that time frame. USCIS is now going to be extending it for like a year. You don't have a year to come into the US, you have 90 days. Once you're here, you do get your parole for 2 years. You can apply for work authorization. So that is the thing that I really want people to know. That's one of the main benefits, is that not only are you able to legally enter the United States, you are also able to legally work in the United States under this program. Okay, so let's be clear. You have to have a supporter. Your supporter has to file an I-134A. You, the beneficiary, will get an email from USCIS asking you to create an online account and to complete the necessary beneficiary information upload and documentation. CBP needs to approve you for travel to the United States. Once they approve you, you have 90 days to travel to the United States. Once you're in the United States, you will get a 2-year parole that you can then use to apply for work authorization, and be able to work and live in the US for that 2 years, unrestricted. Okay. Now, what does this actually mean in the bigger context of things? If you have a family member that you have already filed a petition for, they are outside of the US, let's say you're filing for a parent. So your father is outside of the US, you already started the process, the embassy is not even scheduling interviews, or they're scheduling limited amount of interviews. Well, you can go through this parole process for your father. Once they get into the US under this parole, you can then file for them to get their permanent residency in the US. So you can file the I-485 in the US, and they can get status. People that enter under this program are able to adjust status. So if you enter under this program and you end up either having a child that's 21 and older that is a US citizen, or you are married to a US citizen, your US citizen child or spouse can now file for you to get your permanent residency right here in the US without having to leave. Okay, so that is one of the other benefits of this program. Now, the one thing I have to mention is people that want to file for this for their children. So you are legally in the US and you have children that are outside of the US, or you're here undocumented and you have children outside of the US that will benefit from this program. Now, here's the wrinkle. Children that are under the age of 18 must enter the US with a parent or legal guardian. They cannot enter the US by themselves. They must enter the US with a parent or legal guardian. So that's something to also keep in mind as you're going through this process. If you have a child that's under 21, under 18, that you want to go through this with, you may need to give someone legal guardianship of them in their home country, and also support that person to come to the US. It is a process. It is a process, but just keep that in mind, that children under 18 must be accompanied by a parent or legal guardian in order for them to enter the US. If they are over 18, then that's fine. They can just travel on their own, but keep that little caveat in mind as you're going through this process for your children. Okay. And of course, if you're flying into the US, you have to attest that you have all the vaccinations. So, COVID vaccine, any vaccination that's required to enter the US, you must have it in order to enter the US under this program. Okay, so that is, I tried to get it under 20 minutes, and I think I did it. The overview of how this program works, who can benefit from it, how you can benefit from it. And I guess the very last thing I want to mention is that if you want to do this, if you want to apply for this, you want to do it now. You want to do it as soon as possible because only 30 people are being approved for this a month. So only 30, I'm sorry, did I say 30? 30,000. That would be horrible if it was only 30 people, huh? 30,000 people a month are being approved under this program. So if you apply, you really want to make sure that you are applying early, because once there's a backlog and they can only approve 30,000. If 100,000 people apply a month, the backlog is gonna get there. So you really want to go ahead and apply as soon as possible so that you are not stuck in that backlog. Okay, so that is it. If you have any questions, put them in the comments. I'm gonna actually take a look at those comments right now. If you are watching this on the replay, go ahead, ask me your questions in the comments, and feel free to say hi to the baby that really wants to talk to all of you all today. Right? She really wants to talk to you all. So let's see. Question. My question: if your wife is on your Social Security benefits and she does not want you to file with her, what should I do? So I'm guessing you're referring to being a supporter in this program. So if you are a supporter, you can, and your spouse does not want to have both of your income and assets included, then you will need to show that your Social Security on its own without your spouse is enough for you to be a supporter. Or you need to show that you have other assets or income separate from your spouse. So if both your names are on it, you may need to get a statement that really says this portion of the Social Security is for you and this portion is for your spouse, so that it's clear to USCIS that it's just your income that's being considered. If your spouse, so that's the answer to your question. Now, for other people, if your income alone is not enough, you can include your spouse as a co-supporter, and their income can be added to yours to make up whatever amount that you need. Okay, so I didn't mention that, but like I said, you can have more than one supporter. If you file taxes jointly with your spouse and your spouse does not want to be a supporter, you would need to include your W-2s to show which part of that income on your tax return is actually yours and which part is your spouse's. Because if you just send a jointly filed tax return without saying whose income is whose, USCIS is just going to ask, is your spouse also a supporter, or is it just you? And if it's just you, we need to know which income is yours. So that's really the important thing here, is if you are going to be filing as an individual and your tax returns show that you're married filing jointly, you need to show your own income, not your spouse's income. And you do that by showing your W-2. Okay. So how do you show income? Because I know someone is asking, how do you show your incomes and assets? One, you can show your W-2s, your tax returns, your pay stubs, right? Your pay stub shows what your current income is, how much you're currently making a month. Your tax returns and W-2s shows what you received last year. And if you're still in the same job, is, USCIS can infer that you will get the same pay. So that's something to keep in mind there. And your pay stubs, don't just send one pay stub, please. You need to show that your income is consistent, right? Month over month, paycheck by paycheck, it is consistent. You're working the same hours or similar hours, and you're making relatively the same amount of money every single pay period. Okay. That's what they're looking for here. And then any other, if you have assets, so bank statements would be a good thing to show for assets. If you have stocks, you can also use that. If you have properties, you will need to typically have some form of appraisal to show how much the property is worth versus how much you owe on the property, because that's the equity. So just because you own a $300,000 property, if your mortgage on the property is $290,000, your equity is only $10,000. So that property, even though it's worth $300,000, because your mortgage is $290,000, USCIS is only going to really consider $10,000 of that, because that's what you would make if you sold it today for $300,000. Okay, so keep that in mind as well as you're using your property. You can use, like I said, stocks, bonds, your real estate, your bank accounts. Those count for assets, unless you're actually getting dividends. Then you can use those to show income as well. Okay, so that's how you would show income. And yeah, that's all I have for you today. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask. And if you found this video helpful, please do share it, like it. And if this is your first time here or your 10th time here and you have not subscribed and you are really interested in immigration law, you are interested in how to get a green card, citizenship for yourself, for your family, for your friends, then this is the channel for you. Go ahead and subscribe. And if you want to get a strategy session with me where we go through what you qualify for, what your family member qualifies for, and what the next steps should be for you, go ahead and click the link in the description to this video for a strategy session, or call my office at 508-443-1788. Thank you all so much for joining me and for supporting this channel. I definitely appreciate all of you. And again, if you have questions, please do ask. This is an important program, and I want to make sure that those that qualify, that just happen to have a question, are getting the information they need to apply for this, because again, this is an important step in getting valid legal immigration reform for people. So let's make it happen. Let's take advantage of the programs that are available. So do not delay. All right. So as always, I am Lillian Chukura. I am the owner and lawyer at Lily Legal, where we do immigration law and we do it well.